and my uncle died. Well, he was my great uncle actually, and was really close with him. And it was such a shock for me because my uncle was in my prayers all the time, and I was praying as a child. And I couldn't really understand it properly, but I still had no bitterness though, against the Lord, and I still kept on praying for all the other family. And then I just remember then starting secondary school, and then as I entered secondary school, suddenly things come in, like the Word of God says, things come in and they snatch, the word away from you. I didn't really even have a word because I still at this point didn't even know what the gospel was, but they were snatching whatever bit of truth I had away. Friends were coming in, being in the secondary school, just so many things, and the friends that I had as well, there was exactly the same situation as me, never had any Christian upbringing, nothing, and I don't know, and then it was like I almost became embarrassed then before them to think that I could even think, of Jesus Christ, or that there is a God. And then obviously then as you go through secondary school and evolution comes in, and from the television, from secondary school, from all walks of life, you can't get away from it. And suddenly it was almost like, yeah, of course there's no God. I actually I remember a teacher at secondary school saying, who in here believes in God? And I remember looking around thinking, oh, nobody's going to put their hand up. And I remember this one girl called Jennifer Clegg put her hand up, and she must be so brave, when she put her hand up. And I just thought, wow, how silly. And then I remember him saying, and who, so I take it then everybody else is an atheist, and everybody was so quick, to put their hands up, it's like it's a big bragging thing, yes, of course, I'm an atheist. And basically, so that's where I was through my secondary school. And then obviously then my life reflected that, because there isn't a God, we're not accountable to anybody. What does it matter? I'm not saying I was a horrible out and out person, but then at the same time, through my years growing up, I wouldn't even speak of the things, that happened in those years. It would be a shame. And then I met Kevin, and we was very young, and our lives really together was just your normal, relationship of the world, really. You don't really have to get married, you can still do what you want to do, really. You don't have to make a commitment. And then we got engaged, and it was together for engaged for 10 years, and then I got pregnant with Dylan, who's my oldest son, and life really began to change. We had a baby on the way, we wasn't married, and just, I think life really sank in that we'd have to kind of, we're soon to be parents, responsibility. And then we had a terrible time, and we actually, we split up. And then when I had Dylan, I think Dylan was about he would have been about 6 months old. And I remember wanting to run away from life. And just wanting to get away from everything, really, to be honest. And then Kevin, one morning I woke up and he just wasn't there. And was in this house at the time, because we moved in when I had Dylan, so this was 6 months down the line. He wasn't there, and I thought, where's he gone? And to be honest with you, I thought, he's gone. He's left. He's had enough, he's left. And then he came back around about dinner time-ish. I said, where have you been? And he said, I don't know. He said, I just woke up this morning and I felt the Lord. No, he didn't say I felt the Lord. But he just said I felt like I had to go to church. And it was the local Anglican church. I remember thinking, church, what's he going to church for? This is crazy. Who goes to church nowadays? And he started going there every Sunday, and he was coming back, and the Lord was just driving him to go to church. And then Kevin wasn't converted at this point, but then we was there. Basically, he then started to take me along, because everybody was saying to him, oh, bring your girlfriend and your son, why are they not coming? So I started coming along with Kevin. And I remember going there to the Anglican church, and I remember thinking, wow, this is just like taking me back into the past, all these memories coming back of like being at school and in the church and with my grandma. And I remember starting to sing songs and things, and I don't know, something within me then started to like light again, in a sense. I still didn't know the truth, I still didn't know the gospel, but there was something there, some kind of the Lord doing something, some kind of work. And like I say, I was there for 7 years, and then after that 7 years, one day, I mean, you've all heard Kevin's testimony, I don't know. Kevin was in the garden, and that day was, I remember that day he came in the house, and he couldn't keep still. He's walking around, and we didn't know what being born again was that day. We didn't know. But from that day onwards, Kevin just changed. He just completely changed. But then you see, rather than that me kind of making everything okay, it was then even harder of a battle for me, because I thought, oh no, what's going on? And then all Kevin could do was just reading his Bible all the time. He'd go to every meeting at the Anglican church, he wouldn't miss one. And then he started writing like magazine. He would just had this passion for God, and but then I started to read the Bible, and rather than sort of like read it to find truth, I was reading it to find fault. And every time I found something in the Bible that really just like aggravated me, and like for instance, when Jesus says, to pluck out your eye, and to cut off your right hand, and I'd pick these texts up and I'd be like, oh, this is ridiculous. How can people do this? How can you? That's just nonsense. Anything I could grab hold of, I'd start trying to almost tear Kevin's faith down, and almost try to. I just didn't want the Bible. I just didn't want the Bible because and then anyway, I remember as well, then I started to we then went to a Calvary Chapel church, which was, met some lovely people there. But what I started to do was then, because the people were so nice and so lovely, I started to try to fit in, which is the worst thing anybody can ever do. Never try and fit in. If you know you're not right with God, never try and fit in. It's the worst thing you can do. And so then, because I was trying to fit in, I was trying to convince myself that I actually know I knew the Lord. I was trying to convince myself. So then, because everybody was just so lovely, so caring, and I'd read my Bible, and I'd read it, but I'd not read it. I wouldn't read it with like an honest truth of trying to seek what God wanted for my life, and I'd read it without really believing as well the promises of God and what I was reading.